It's my pleasure to introduce our 2016 School of Medicine commencement class speaker, Mr. Scott Walton. Mr. Walton received his Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science from Brigham Young University, where he graduated summa cum laude. Mr. Walton was selected by his medical school class to deliver the class address. His honors include the Mavis P. Kelsey, MD, Excellence in Medicine Award, the Dr. Bernie Rothschild Award for Compassion in Medicine, and the Jimmy Doyle Dickens Memorial Award for Excellence in Gross Anatomy and Radiology. He also received a Physical Training Mentor Award from the United States Army. He is a member of the Alpha Omega Alpha Honor Society and the Gold Humanism Honor Society. Mr. Walton was a student advisor for the UTMB's Physician Healer track, as well as president and founder of the Physician Healer Student Association. Mr. Walton has worked with the team to develop and test the automated critical care system for the U.S. Navy at the UTMB Research Resuscitation Laboratory. He also studied long-term otis media under Harold Pine in the Department of Otolaryngology. Throughout his time at UTMB, Mr. Walton has volunteered for several organizations, including the St. Vincent's Clinic and Big Sib, Little Sib. He is also Executive Secretary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints here in Galveston. Please join me in welcoming this exemplary student, Mr. Scott Walton.
Thank you, Dr. Raybeck. Good morning. Wow, what an amazing opportunity to stand before you all today. Very humbling as well. The crowd is large. It extends back if you turn around, and there's a picture of me right in front of me that's kind of weird to look at, but it's going to be okay. I must admit that I don't come totally unprepared. They teach us a little bit about public speaking in medical school. Unfortunately, all that they taught us was how to treat patients who were afraid of it. And needless to say, they didn't offer me any of those drugs, so bear with me for the next few minutes while we get through this speech. Thank you, everyone, for being here, my family, friends, and the family and friends and supporters of so many of us today. We couldn't have gotten here without each of you. Thank you, Dr. Raybeck, for the introduction, and thank you to so many UTMB alumni, faculty that have made it possible for us to be here. We certainly couldn't have done it without you, and it's a great honor to recognize and honor you as well during this day. As match day approached, that long-awaited day in March, when all of our hard work, dedication, long hours culminated into a single envelope that we walked down and received, securing our future, letting us know where we were going to go on to do residency training, there was a class survey that went out to nominate the class speaker, like Dr. Raybeck mentioned. When I saw my name on the list of possible nominees, all I could think was, who can I vote for to assure that their name is atop the list instead of mine? But after the votes came in and I started receiving text messages from fellow classmates saying things like, I voted for you, start writing that speech, I could only hope that that was a minority, but sure enough, here I am. And I knew that if I was nominated, there was one patient's story, one person's story that I wanted to share. And despite my fear and nervousness, that patient's story would be worth sharing. So we'll get to Isaac's story shortly. But in the meantime, preparing for this graduation, thinking back to my graduation ceremony at BYU 4 years ago, I found it difficult to fully enjoy that moment. I knew that medical school loomed large in my future. I felt like I was celebrating a touchdown at the 50-yard line, and everything just felt a little bit premature. However, today, those feelings of prematurity are certainly gone as we, as a class, stand in our figurative end zone to celebrate the winning touchdown. And the best part about it is that we're all on the winning team, and we can celebrate that touchdown together. We certainly didn't leave the game unscathed. We have our bumps and our bruises and our scars to show that it wasn't an easy fight. So first and foremost, I wanted to congratulate the class of 2016 for an awesome accomplishment, and I hope that we can all feel proud. As many of my classmates will remember, this journey through medical school started 4 years ago with the gross anatomy lab and that unforgettable smell that permeated our clothes and hair for days to come. Sometimes I still have nightmares about that. But from there, we continued through rigorous coursework, that kept us busy but taught us so much of the basic science that was the backbone to what we would do and learn as physicians. Sometimes the pathways and the processes that we had to memorize seemed endless, but we always made it through. And on top of the learning in the classroom, we were also tasked with mastering the clinical skills that would be required of medical students and future physicians, and that was no easy task. I'm sure many of my classmates can remember some of their first patient encounters. One particular one that stands out to me was with a standardized patient, a chance to kind of practice before we're thrown into a real patient room. This particular task that we were assigned to do was to use an ophthalmoscope to observe the eye. There was a small group of me and my classmates went into a room with this standardized patient. My goal, however, I found was a little more rudimentary, as I found that as a left eye dominant individual, I had a really hard time closing my left eye while maintaining my right eye open to maintain enough clarity to perform the task. So sure enough, I thought I was smart and I could outbeat the system, and so I decided to just leave both eyes open, no one would ever know, get through the task, move on, and avoid any problems or embarrassment. Well, I was wrong. Sure enough, as I lean in closer and closer for the exam, with my left eye and right eye both open, I make an awkward eye contact with the students that are standing behind the patient, and they realize, isn't that eye supposed to be closed? Anyways, we make eye contact, we all start laughing, and the standardized patient, however, didn't find it quite as amusing, and I just left that day grateful that it was a practice session. And that day, the only good thing I remember about that day was my ability to rule out ophthalmology as a career choice. However, going home that day, I certainly felt inadequate and not so confident in my abilities. The task at hand that we were given to master the vast amount of knowledge as well as the clinical skills necessary to be a doctor and a student was very overwhelming. I'm sure most of my classmates can attest to the fact that humbling experiences came often over the last 4 years for each of us. But like I mentioned before, the encouragement from faculty, from friends, from family, loved ones, peers, is what kept us going and forging ahead. My sweet and patient wife, Stephanie, certainly deserves a shout out. She not only supported me, but also, while supporting me, took on so many of the household responsibilities and so many of her own life's challenges during the last 4 years, and I certainly love and appreciate her for that. And just like for me, so many of these other graduates, this road that we traveled would have certainly become impassable had it not been for so many of you out there. So as a class, we recognize and thank each of you. Recently, I was talking with a lifelong friend, someone I admire, and he asked me as I was nearing the end of medical school, knowing what you know now and having a little more experience, would you still go to medical school and pursue this path to becoming a physician again? With no hesitation, I said yes, but found it difficult to quickly explain in a few sentences the full reason why. Now that I have a little more time and hopefully a captive audience, I wanted to take a minute to explain why I feel that as a graduating class of doctors, we can and should look forward to the future with excitement because, like was mentioned earlier, our future truly is bright. My resounding yes to my friend's question stems from what I've learned over the last few years about the honor and privilege it is to be called someone's physician. It's something that I learned from not only medical school, but from some personal experiences, so I ask you to bear with me while I share a personal story that changed my outlook on life and my role as a physician and has continued to enrich my understanding of what it is that we're seeking to accomplish. It's something that I found wasn't routinely found in textbooks and lecture halls, but something that is crucial as we move forward. Nearing the end of our first year of medical school, like many of you, I was anxiously awaiting summer break and the fun electives and vacations that we had planned. We all knew it was our last real summer break, and we all wanted to make the most out of it. To add to the excitement of this time, my wife and I found out that we were expecting our second child, and we were really hoping that it was a boy. Our daughter, who was quickly growing up, needed a friend and a partner in crime, and everything seemed like it was going perfectly. As my wife entered her second trimester of her pregnancy, we went in for a routine ultrasound screening, and there we learned that the baby was most likely a boy. They said and warned us, it's too early to be sure, but you can believe that I was ecstatic. With this exciting news, however, the information to follow was certainly much harder to bear. The technician that was performing the ultrasound grew quiet as she meticulously scrolled back and forth with that ultrasound probe. And like any good first-year medical student, I was glued on the screen trying to follow this snowstorm of picture, trying to figure out what anatomical structures were flashing up on the screen. But without much guidance, it really proved impossible to see much of anything by way of an abnormality. The technician, after growing a little quiet, left the room and said she was going to go get the doctor. So my wife and I found ourselves sitting anxiously on that hospital bed, awaiting the expert physician to come in and tell us what all these ultrasound findings really meant for our baby boy. Those minutes certainly felt like an eternity as my wife and I prayed that our fears might possibly be averted, but with each passing minute, our excitement turned to uneasiness, but we were hopeful, still holding on to that hope that the doctor would come in and assure us that everything was just fine. Upon entering the room, however, the doctor introduced herself and proceeded. "We need to talk about a problem with your baby," she said. Problem with our baby, I thought. No way, not us. Life seemed too perfect. It certainly must have been a mix-up of some sort. However, following more blood tests in ensuing weeks, imaging studies, and various counselings with different physicians, we found and learned that our child, our son, wouldn't be dealt the easiest lot in life. The son that I was so excited to raise wouldn't be able to probably most likely even see his first birthday. This news that we received thrust us, my little family, onto a journey that was filled with ups and downs, filled with joy and sorrow, but all in all, really filled with incredible growth and understanding. While it was extremely difficult to endure, the beauty of this experience began to unfold as we were introduced to doctors and physicians along the route here at UTMB, who helped us discover that though science can fail and disease certainly may prevail, healing can and must happen for every single patient, every time, regardless of their background story, regardless of the pathology that they're given, regardless of the prognosis they're given as well. Our hope was always, throughout the whole process, that a skilled doctor would be able to come in and heal our son miraculously from this disease that was deemed incurable. However, we slowly became aware of the fact that trisomy 18 would take claim on his little body despite any amount of love, hope, faith, prayers, and the best modern medicine that we had to throw at it. The road we traveled taught me something that isn't always embedded into the medical school curriculum, but crucial in order to become a true physician healer. The stark contrast that we began to see between the physicians who were capable of distinguishing the difference between just an interesting and exciting case for the medical team to work through and the potential life-crushing crisis that said case was for the patients that were involved made all of the difference for us as a family. These physicians that were able to do that brought us healing despite the physical outcome. More ultrasounds throughout the process confirmed that our baby was in fact a boy. We decided to name him Isaac. He continued to grow and develop despite his physical limitations, and we were excited when we reached that full-term mark, knowing that it was a big milestone for him. However, nearing his due date, my wife sensed that things just weren't quite right. We went to UTMB to assess his condition and found that he was a little bit distressed, still doing okay, but just a little distressed. We decided to let Isaac continue to grow and develop, to not rush into any emergent delivery of any sort. And the peace that we felt during this whole process, I know, was in large part due to the ability of these UTMB physicians that were able to prepare us for this process that we were involved in. Isaac, like I mentioned, was born on August 5th, 2013, and his little body ultimately succumbed to the disease. However, his life and legacy have changed my life and my understanding of what I must strive to accomplish as a physician and what I feel we all must strive to accomplish. The experience taught me the importance of maintaining the needs of our patients first. I'm sure at times it will certainly seem inconvenient, it will seem annoying to remember this charge, but I invite all of us to remember that as physicians, it's our duty and our honor. And I hope that part of Isaac's story lives on in each of you as you embark on this next stage in your journey in medical training in residency that's going to be filled with endless amounts of demands for your time and for your energy. Scattered throughout many of our medical school application essays was a variation of the phrase, "I want to help people." There is a growing fear in the medical community that the training path currently in place to prepare us to arrive at this point today and beyond is the very culprit guilty of beating the caring and compassionate nature out of each of us. I believe that UTMB has set us on a different course, and I have faith in my peers' ability to not fall prey to this trend. I have watched so many of you tirelessly give of your time and energy to better enhance the community, to better enhance the care of our patients, and I know that that will continue. And I invite each of us to make sure that we maintain this focus on selfless service, and most importantly, remember that medical competency that we will all become masters at it over the years is only part of what will make us excellent physicians. This is the reason that I look forward to the future. This is the reason that I feel that our future is bright. What an honor to be entrusted to care for the sick and the afflicted and to help alleviate suffering, both the physical and the emotional kind that run rampant throughout our hospital's wards. We are a blessed group of young doctors, and I know that despite the outcome, we will remember that a task to be completed or a case to be solved is never more important than a patient to be cared for. Fellow classmates, congratulations. Thank you for allowing me to speak. It truly is an honor, and I hope that you feel that way as well. I trust that great things will come from each of you. I know that the care of our families and friends and future generations are in good hands. Good luck on all of your adventures, and I know that you will all go on and do amazing things in the world. Now, please join me in congratulating so many successes and victories, all culminating on this special day for all of these graduates seating in front of us. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Well, thank you, Mr. Walton. That was marvelous.